Thanks for joining us for the MNFurs 2020 candidate debate. This first part is going to be filmed with our candidate Grumble, who was not able to make it to the debate, the actual date that takes place tomorrow. So we are meeting with her today. Thank you very much for joining us. Questions are going to be coming at you. You will have 2 minutes to respond to each question. All right.
Okay, so we have a list of 20 questions, so we'll just start going down the list. Our first question for you is, what do you think MNFurs' role is in providing an environment for our youth in the community?
Roles for youth. It's very important, but I think in the MNFurs' role is to making sure that that we have a convention that's very youth encouraging, that's open to the youth, that's basically not scary to the youth. There's a lot of things there that are that basically because of the way the convention is set up, that's good. You basically set up policies in place, and it should be good for youth.
Okay. All right. Next question. With other organizations such as GPS, MFF, Anime Twin Cities, and more, how should MNFurs provide our services?
Basically saying it's always important to coordinate with a lot of other groups. We get some advantages with the way we coordinate with like GPS and other groups. So as far as how we provide our services, I'm not really sure how that question applies, but next.
Okay, next question. What is your understanding of your fiduciary responsibilities if elected to the board?
The fiduciary responsibilities are pretty important because as a board member, the board members have a legal responsibility to make sure everything is, they're counted right, make sure you have the filings right. The board has to make sure that the corporation actually takes, or the group basically files everything properly. In the end, the board members are the ones who can end up in jail if things don't get done right. So it's important that that anyone running for board understand that there is legal responsibilities.
Okay, next question. From an outside perspective looking in, what do you feel are, if any, current issues that need to be addressed by the MNFurs board?
Current issues? I'm not really aware of any. There's a couple things that being talked about, certain things, but it's like I don't really have a big issue I'm bringing. We've had board member candidates in the past that say, I basically want to do this or I want to do that. I'm basically running for the board and just saying, don't really have any big issues.
Next question. Based on answers given by candidates in the previous question, what are some solutions to help alleviate those issues?
So this is going to be one of the ones that keys off another candidate's talk. Alleviate their positions as far as basically alleviating what they're running for the board as far as trying to improve the previous question. So I'm not sure.
Okay. What are your plans for educating the public on MNFurs from the perspective of our organization existing, what we provide to our community, the general public, etc.?
I see the big thing is that we basically, most of our promotion comes through furry migration side. Pretty much anybody who gets into furry migration would then basically I see it that kind of as the route. MNFurs can promote some things directly, but I see most of our public facing publication stuff through furry migration.
Okay. With this new era of inclusion where the old norms and behaviors in society are not acceptable, How are you going to make MNFurs be more inclusive? As an example, how will you get more people involved and from all walks of life?
I think it's just a matter of being accepting of all kinds, because I'm non-binary. I'm a little different as it is. So it's just a matter of being open and trying to make sure that we don't create policies, because the MNFurs board mainly creates policies. That's kind of its main job. So it's making sure we have policies that are set up to be fair.
Nonprofit groups require funds to remain operational. What is your proposal on ways to provide more revenue streams for MNFurs?
I'm not really sure on fundraising. I mean, we do have the convention. We have the donations that we get at various events, such as like the picnics. But I'm not really sure what else we can do.
If elected to the board, how will you handle yourself publicly when and if approached by a general public wanting to know more about us?
Well, that's always a tricky one in the whole fandom in general. You always have to be careful of what media you're talking to, what slant they might want to take and edit things into, what words they're looking for you to say. I tend to avoid cameras whenever possible to begin with. So I would be one of those types that would basically more defer to them contacting the group in general.
If elected, what are some of your goals that you want to accomplish with the organization over the next 2 years, and why?
I don't really have a lot of goals. I mean, personally, I'd like to take and get some more the greater Minnesota type support. We lost I don't want to say we lost it, but we stopped having the meetings in St. Cloud. We don't have anything further north. There is some stuff south of the cities, but most of the focus has always been in the cities. I'm way out in the countryside, but I don't know exactly how to organize that out there.
Furry Migration is a chartered event that runs under MNFurs. It is designed to run mostly as an independent event with board member staffing as well as other senior staff positions. How do you see the validity granted or garnered by the charter?
So it's a question on validity of the charter?
Correct.
Okay, so I thought that question was going somewhere completely different. Basically, the legal framework I think is valid, so I'm not really sure what that question is. So, next.
With our repeated events that happen year-round, is there anything you see that needs to be changed with these, and why?
We have a lot of different events. We've got a spring and fall picnic. We've got the main convention. We've got the meetings. I don't really see a lot of changes, so.
If elected, what would you do as a board member to explore new partnership avenues and expand MNFurs into new territory?
Like I said, the only real expansion I could see is into the greater Minnesota. I see a lack of a lot of anything, like all the way up into Fargo or up into Duluth. You get further west of like halfway into Wisconsin, and then you're starting to get into MFF territory and this other stuff. But I can see us basically doing much more further out than we are currently. But it's going to take a lot more planning, and it's not something we could do on a monthly basis. If anything, we could have like yearly events in some of the other spots. But I'm not really sure exactly how that planning would go yet.
Okay. So with the age diversity in MNFurs, how do you plan to engage youth, teens, and adults to become more involved in the community and to make a difference?
That's always a hard one. We have to take and deal with the problems where certain you know, we have the same kind of problems like Anime Detour has, where we have the young teens, you know, basically the parents don't want to bring their kids to conventions and all kinds of other things, but I suspect that we're actually okay with getting teens there to our convention. I just don't know how I don't see us having a good way to get them into being like staff and helping further, but we are, you know, trying what we can. Butcher that.
How are you going to engage community members to volunteer and help the organization at a greater capacity?
I really don't know how I can get other people to take and volunteer. I can ask people, and they just say, no. So, I'm not a very persuasive person that way. So.
How would you handle a complicated task given to you by a community member?
Well, it depends on a lot of complexity of what kind of task is involved. You know, my background is in electronics, computers. I've also been involved in patent lawsuits where I got stuck between a couple different companies. So I've got some legal experience there. I've got some background in running corporations and stuff, but the task, sometimes it comes down to finding the right people to help you with a project rather than actually knowing what you have to do.
How would you handle yourself when providing constructive criticism about how something is set up and ran within the organization?
Okay, what was that again? Okay.
How would you handle yourself when providing constructive criticism about how something is set up and ran within the organization?
I think constructive criticism can be helpful. I mean, in the engineering fields, you always have the second set of eyes rules, so you can't really say that criticism or, you know, pointing out something is a bad idea. It's always, you know, I'm okay with criticism, and I'm okay with giving out criticism.
What are your viewpoints on youth and teens in our community from the perspective of our events? Should we have them remain as all-inclusive, meaning open to all, or try and segregate youth and teen events?
This is a complicated issue because it depends on what exactly what the ranges we're talking about for youth versus teen. I mean, if we're going to have a group that's, you know, not basically, it all depends on the age range. I mean, the thing is, I like to think of furry as very all ranges. I mean, I remember the little kid about this big putting the head on, you know. So I think from a group point of view, we basically make everything all age ranges, and then we create sub things that can be more tailored. Obviously, a lot of 10-year-olds are not going to take and go to a D&D get-together. Now, sure, they might, or they might play Magic the Gathering, but the topics are likely to segregate the groups more than age will.
With the youth and teens in our community, what are the core values and responsibilities in your own words and why?
So core responsibilities are basically, making sure that we set the policies up again, because, the board's job is basically policy and running things from a high level. So our responsibility is to make sure that we keep an eye on everything and set policies accordingly. So.
Who is a volunteer in MNFurs that you were impressed with and why?
We have a lot of volunteers I'm impressed with, because I consider all the staff to be volunteers. We've got, I've volunteered at pretty much every convention I've gone to, and I've got a lot of volunteers I've seen do so much work. I'm not very good at remembering names, though, so it's like I can remember their faces, but I'm not going to remember their names. Sorry.
That is all of our questions.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Grumble, for
Yeah.
for being here and attending,
Yeah.
and good luck in the upcoming election.
Okay.